the Cayuga, the Colonel Ellsworth, and now on to Mackinac City. Bob, Rick, and myself and many other divers were going to meet at the harbor south of the bridge and get ready for more diving. As I was sitting in the harbor with Bob on a beautiful July day, he said, "What the heck are we doing sitting around here? Why aren't we diving?" Mind you that we had already dove 2 amazing wrecks at this point. A few calls and a few hours later, we were on the Cedarville. When I heard of the wreck of the Cedarville, I knew that I had to go and see it. Most of the wrecks that I have seen were older freighters and schooners. To see a modern shipwreck would be unique. She sits at 110 feet of water, but is so massive that her hull can be seen nearly from the surface. She sits upside down and is a must-dive wreck of the Straits. She was built in 1927 in the bustling industrial harbors of River Rouge. Initially called the A.F. Harvey, her name was changed when U.S. Steel bought her in 1956. The tale of this wreck begins as so many do, on a foggy day. May 1965. The 588-foot Cedarville is on her way to Gary, Indiana, with 14,000 tons of limestone. Heading west, she makes her way under the relatively new Mackinac Bridge. Men aboard go about their regular duties and try to stay warm in the cold spring air. There are 3 different buoys on this massive wreck, and I really wanted to dive the bow and swim through the bridge. Because of how big she is, it would take a separate dive to check out the stern. Captain Martin Jobbich radios to a Norwegian ship, the Toppdalsfjord, who is also navigating her way through the straits. Even with the technology that would have seemed like magic to seamen on the Cayuga and the Ellsworth, a simple miscommunication doomed the Cedarville. David Erickson walked across the deck of the Cedarville and saw, off the port side, something that stopped him in his tracks. The 423-foot Toppdalsfjord was on a trajectory to T-bone the Cedarville. Initially, the only damage that the crew could see were bent and torn railings. However, below deck, things were a different story. Water gushed in as the captain dropped anchor to assess the damage. It was too late once the captain had raised the anchor and decided to try and beach her. She rolled on her starboard side and sank to the bottom of the straits. 36 degrees was the water temperature on that day. One has only about 15, maybe 30 minutes if you're lucky in this kind of water. 25 crewmen were lucky that day. 10 others were not. We swim through a massive crack in our hull. Over time, this crack has become larger. These wrecks often seem as though they are frozen in time, but even deep underwater, the elements do take their toll on these wrecks. To dive a wreck that is still in living memory and where many did not make it back to shore is a sobering experience. It is very important to remember that all these wrecks were once vessels that carried hardworking men who might have had families waiting for them back on shore. We must be cognizant of this fact when we dive these amazing wrecks. The past 3 videos were just from one day on the Straits. Be sure to stick around for many more to come.